My friend was going through a hard time, and I really think he considered it. As a matter of fact, I know he considered it because he voiced it to me. Suicide as an option, or words associated with suicide. I just can't go on. I need to get out of this. I can't handle this anymore. But then they seem better. All of a sudden, my old buddy is back there. John, Bill, Dave, whatever. Hey, I got him back. Matter of fact, he's more euphoric than ever, more lighthearted. The message, if I can get only one out there, is this is an extremely dangerous point, Richard. Often what has happened at that point is your friend has made up the decision that he's going to do it. He just hasn't decided when. So that telltale should raise the antenna. He was depressed. He was sad. He was verbal. Now he's euphoric. Now it's his old self. Be on high alert. Go get that person the help that they so desperately need.
Welcome to Riding Counsel with Rich Jaffe, where the open road meets expert advice. I'm Richard Jaffe, an attorney and biking enthusiast, and this is the podcast where we dive into the world of motorcycling, safety, culture, charitable giving, and riding right. So, whether you're a seasoned rider or just getting started, let's talk bikes, the road, and everything in between. Let's ride! All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ridingcounsel.com podcast, and I'm your host, Rich Jaffe. I am a personal injury lawyer. I am a motorcycle enthusiast, and I am a podcaster, as you all see. And I'm bringing to you today an amazing guest. His name is Rich Green, and I really want him to introduce himself. He's done so much in his life, and I'm proud and honored to have him on here. So, Rich, thanks so much for coming on my podcast. Tell me, who are you? Where do you come from? What's going on with you?
Hey, Rich, how are you? First and foremost, thank you for inviting me today and let me speak about myself, the club, and some of the work we do. Obviously, you said my name is Rich Green. I grew up on Long Island. As a kid of Long Island, loved it, loved the beaches, loved the lifestyle, but more so at a very young age, I became attracted to motorcycle riding, much like probably everybody we're reaching out to today. So it gripped me early, and I just couldn't shake it. During my life, I decided upon a career. I went into the New York City Police Department at a very young age. 22 years old, served 30 years there, and all the while met a lot of people that were involved in the motorcycle community, doing great stuff. But quite honestly, Rich, it never became organized until much later in my life. Late in my career with the NYPD, I met some other enthusiasts from other local police authorities, Nassau County, Suffolk County, that were riders as well. And in particular, I met one group of fellas, gentlemen made up of a mixture of law enforcement, motorcycle enthusiasts, called the Sworn Guns. And instantly I was drawn to them. We met through a mutual friend. I started, much like many other club members, started really getting to see what they were about. Not only met a really fabulous group of guys that became very, very close, near and dear friends, but just really wonderful community-oriented people that understood the law enforcement community and the Long Island community, put it together, made a great mix, and then iced it with a little bit of motorcycle community. So it's a good mix.
This episode has been brought to you by Riding Counsel. Don't forget to visit us at ridingcounsel.com. That's great. All right. Well, let me take a step back because this always interests me. Let's talk about your ride. I mean, you obviously ride a motorcycle. What are you riding?
Yeah, great question, because I love talking about my rides. I have two presently. My main ride, I guess the one I ride more often than not, is a 2023 and a half Road Glide. I was recently treated myself to a retirement gift and jumped up to the CVO model. Obviously, that was the year that Harley-Davidson made a lot of changes in their CVO format, and it was really, really impressive. I think that I received the first one in New York, or the first one on Long Island, or that's how the story went. So I got it, I think, in June 24, and instantly fell in love with it. Since then, several guys in my club have also purchased that motorcycle and really got to see firsthand the ingenuity that went into it. The engine is unbelievable in that bike, the handling, the cornering, the ride suspension. So I really love that primary motorcycle.
Does that have the 117 in it or the 121?
That has the 121 variable valve timed engine.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be so smooth.
It's very smooth and it's very reactive. It's very reactive.
Any great mods? Did you mod it out?
I just put a stage 1 in it and I instantly felt it. Sometimes we get these mods and you kind of convincing yourself that you feel it, but this really did make the bike quite a bit more peppy. There's some literature out there that says you can get as much as 11 horsepower more, which is an enormous boost for a stage one. Yeah. But I really did feel it right away.
It's always nice to make your bike your own. It's got to fit your personality. It's got to fit. I mean, I know mine. I mean, I have a 24 Road Glide, and I got a lot of add-ons there. I got a lot of mods, but I put on an exhaust. I put on a nice windshield. I got the floorboards and stuff like that, but it feels like my bike, and it really reflects my personality. So I think that's pretty important to do.
Yeah, that really is, and I think I express my personality side more with what we'll call the bar hopper. So many people in our community call that, or the little local runaround. I have a 2001 Softail. It's a carbureted bike, so for those of us in the community, we know it has its challenges, especially with getting any type of service done. It's getting narrower and narrower, the folks that can work on a carbureted bike. But that bike has some real mods. It's got a Springer front to it, convex cut tanks, really custom paint job, single leather seat, big rear wheel, and it's chain drive. The belt drive was removed, open primary. So it really has some fun stuff, S&S carb on it, and some Carlini ape hangers, 16-inch ape hangers. So that's fun, like to pop around on Sundays, get some breakfast, and if you're going anywhere beyond 20 miles, get back to your house and get the Road Glide,
Yeah, man. I mean, a Springer, like carbureted models. Look, it does have its drawbacks, but you know what? On the other side, I honestly think they're so much easier to fix. I mean, with the computers and stuff like that on the new Road Glides and the Street Glides, you got to bring it in if anything goes wrong with the computer, and that computer probably costs you, I don't know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. God forbid something goes wrong.
Rich, there really is a certain type of freedom of looking down and only seeing one gauge, just a speedometer. The Road Glide, the infotainment center is so complex that you can really lose yourself. And there is a safety issue in that too. You have to train yourself not to look down. So I'm so glad Harley Davidson really worked to integrate the hand controls in an even better fashion, so you can kind of really dance through your infotainment system once you get used to it without removing your eyes from the safety of the road.
Yeah, that's it. It's definitely important. It's definitely important. Well, I also thank you very much for, again, you said 3 decades of service in the NYPD. I mean, that's a long time. That is quite a career. Boy, was it good to you? Was it bad to you? I mean, how do you feel about it?
So the career was a dream career. I love it. I loved every moment of it. I know a lot of people say it was their calling. I really did have a dream as a child that I'd be a cop, and I continued that dream throughout. I became a cop at 22 years old. And it's funny, in the NYPD, I always say you have an option to do as much as you can possibly dream. It's limitless. If you're into boats, you can be a boat, in the harbor unit. If you're into flying, you can be in the aviation unit. Horses, you get the example. I was always into investigations and spent the bulk of my career in the detective bureau, which was a dream come true for me. I also rose through the ranks and retired as an inspector, which was a great honor as well. I also had the unique distinction of working with a lot of our federal partners, the FBI, the DEA, and the ATF, which really did open my eyes to law enforcement across the whole spectrum of what's out there. So not only did I gain great experience, but met some really great people out there along the way.
You got to be devoted to your job to get that far. I mean, that's incredible that you did that, and everybody's really appreciative for all you've done. So thank you very much for that. And now you're part of the Sworn Guns Motorcycle Club. Is that right? Did I hear right?
You did. It's the Sworn Guns Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club, made up of primarily law enforcement members. The history of the club was an interesting one. It was kind of a garage band movement, which kind of hit Long Island back in 2007 for us. There weren't that many motorcycle clubs out there at the time, and really few law enforcement ones. Sworn Guns started as a club called the Ridiots, which were just a bunch of cops. I think at the time it stood for the Riding Idiots, a little self-deprecating joke that they used to call themselves. They gained some steam and membership along the way for about the next 10 years, going up in 2017. But in 2011, they had a really horrific milestone. A young officer by the name of Jeff Brykoff, and I believe that a lot of your viewers might remember this incident, was working out in the Massapequa area. He was a Nassau County Bureau of Special Operations officer. A call for service came in. This was back in March 12th of 2011. Officer Brykoff responded, and it was an incident where there was a mistaken identity and a friendly fire incident, which cost him his life.
Oh.
Jeff was a member of the Sworn Guns, and to this day, every March 12th, we join the Nassau County Police Department, Bruce Blakeman, Patrick Ryder, and the unions, the line officers, and we are out there. We ride our motorcycles, and again, I'll say the date. It was March 12th, and that's important because it's not always so pleasant to ride on March 12th, as you might know, Rich. Yeah. But we do it. We came, I think, 42 motorcycles strong. The Blue Knights joined us. Some folks from the Blue Knights joined us as well to pay respects to Jeff and the commitment that he made to the citizens of Nassau County and his brotherhood in the Nassau County Police Department and his greater brotherhood in blue. So we have been out there every March 12th since, and we will continue as long as we could still ride.
It's a really nice way to honor him. What a horrible event. What a tragic event. But I mean, it really brings to light the Sworn Guns values and, what they're about. So can you tell me a little bit more about the Sworn Guns? What are their values? What are their principles?
Yeah, we're a real community-based organization. Like I said, that happened in 2012, but we kind of stayed a small group that grew. In 2017, like I said, it was about a 10-year period of growth. We really changed our dynamic, if you will. It just so happened coincides with the year that I came into the club, but I won't say that's how we changed our dynamic. Much earlier in the year, the leadership at the time changed. They saw a need for a much more organized formation of a law enforcement motorcycle club out there in Long Island. They had some ideas of what they wanted to do with it. At the time, an individual by the name of Dave Brown, who we also tragically lost in a motorcycle accident, was the president. He worked with another individual named Mario Mastrapiro, who day and night to really organize this club. It started with a name change. That's when we adopted the name Sworn Guns. Our emblem, which you can potentially see on my shirt partially, the demon, was trademarked. And from that moment on, we were the Sworn Guns. The Sworn Guns were born.
Well, I'm happy to hear that it's a motorcycle club. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about groups of motorcyclists that are riding on the highways and even through our local streets. So we see a lot of motorcyclists together, and it could be a little intimidating, but for the large part of the riders, at least on Long Island and what I've seen in the tri-state area, these are motorcycle clubs. These are not gangs. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions people might have out there about motorcycle clubs.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction, and I think it's born of a lot of things. The stigma behind motorcycles to start with. Obviously, there is some danger behind them. There's a fear of the unknown. And again, that coming out of the 60s with that, there was a misconception that organized motorcycle riders and groups were somehow affiliated with the 1% gangs that are out there and or motorcycle crews that are out there, and they're not. They may have some structural similarity, but they ride very separately. And this is not a commentary on the 1% gangs, but we have no similarity with them. We are a community-based, law-abiding, law enforcement community, a group. We're bound together by our love of motorcycle riding, the freedom and fun that it provides. And I think you understand exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. The tranquility, the peace that you get from getting out there and riding, especially on Long Island, surrounded by salt water and salt air. That tranquility goes a long way, and I think it will dovetail nicely into some of what we'll hopefully discuss later, which is one of our lead causes.
It's typical of many motorcycle clubs, but very distinctive to the Sworn Guns, which you're a part of, and proudly so. You're taking on a big fundraiser coming up. Tell me about this fundraiser. When is it? What's it about? How did it arise? Tell me all about it.
So our fundraiser, it started in 2016 with the tragic loss of my very, very dear friend and fellow police inspector, Mike Amiri. He succumbed to his own hand. And that's what we saw a need to address. That's what I found to be my calling from that moment on. As I walked through this with Mike, his family prior to his death, and then his family afterwards, you realized a lot about suicide, the misconceptions of suicide, and the gaps in the awareness and prevention. So that became, from that point on, my personal mission to bring that awareness, to bring that prevention piece. And when I joined in 2017 and ultimately became a full member in 2018, the club greeted me with open arms, and that cause also took on the cause together. So backtracking, I guess, a little in our conversation, yeah, it was really great to have the support of a club, the differentiation of being a law enforcement, a law-abiding, community-based club, and then finding this niche to call our own. I guess we can discuss the event itself. On August 23rd, we always kind of target that third week in August. We will have our Breaking the Silence, BRAKING, obviously a play in our motorcycle ancestry here. Breaking the Silence ride for police suicide prevention and awareness.
Wow, that's a powerful motivator, and I'm really sorry for your pain and sorry for your loss. But the specter of suicide seems to really haunt a lot of law enforcement members. Any idea why that is?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rich. It really is. There's a lot of misconceptions about it, but I think police officers, and somewhat alike to our brothers in the military, we're often asked to make split-second decisions that will have potentially grave or extreme reactive
Consequences.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And at the end of that, how we performed those actions are sometimes micro-analyzed, you know what I mean? And scrutinized, potentially for a favorable narrative, an agenda, even for financial gain. Now, that's an unbelievable stressor on police officers. But the unique transition is that those men and women in blue have to then take off that uniform and transition to mom, dad, brother, sister, spouse. And that's a hard transition. Sometimes in that role as family member, neighborhood community member, there are other stressors, financial, interpersonal relationships, and it becomes a tunnel with a dimming light. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about suicide and the act of suicide, but one thing that is not a misconception is that the individuals that are going through this often feel very isolated. There's an unbelievable isolation. There is an unbelievable amount of despair. So much so that I like to discuss with folks in the awareness piece that to these people, leaving the world and their loved ones, to who out there doesn't feel such a strong bond with their loved ones, that leaving their loved ones in this world is more sensible or the only choice potentially than staying within it. So it becomes an overwhelming weight on their shoulders, just something that they can't cope with anymore. That rash solution, that very, very short temporary fix in their mind becomes like the sensible solution.
I think it's really important. This is a really important issue that doesn't get a lot of attention, and it should, because there's so many law enforcement officers out there that are on the front lines, and nobody except maybe other law enforcement officers understand what they go through, and yet they're probably the most vulnerable to this kind of thing. And bringing suicide, especially in the sense that it affects law enforcement officers, to the attention of the public, is a great thing. And my hat is off to you, not only to you, but to your club for really spearheading this. And I'd imagine not only you have involvement from your own club, but can you tell us a little bit more about what role motorcyclists play in bringing the awareness to this issue and how they help?
Well, the motorcyclist's role is really integral. For us, it's the support to the families. Very, very often the families of the brothers and sisters we have lost, they feel abandoned. They feel left behind, not only by their loved one, but by the police department, which is a little bit of a family or a major family to a lot of us, by their communities, by friends, by neighbors. So this recognition for them, for their spouse, their father, their mother, the officer himself, this recognition that this person went out there every day, put on a blue uniform, and was a hero and will not be forgotten. They can hang their heads high in recognition of their loved one. And it plays very much into the stigma and often the law enforcement stigma that surrounds police suicide.
Do you have to be a law enforcement officer or a motorcyclist to get involved in this cause that you've been spearheading for a number of years now since the loss of your friend? But do you have to be a law enforcement officer to get involved?
No, absolutely not. There's so many ways to be involved. As a rider of any background, we ask you, please come to sworngunsmc.com. Right on it, sworngunsmc.com is the posting for this year's ride. Please, any type of rider, you're welcome. Please come. The proceeds go to support. Now, how this ride works, if I may, Rich.
Yeah.
It starts off at our clubhouse in Bohemia with a beautiful breakfast. We have some words by line organizations, by some of the club members. And it's a time for some solemn conversation with other members of the riding community. A lot of the families are there. A lot of the police officers, active police officers, are there themselves. From that point, there's an escorted ride. Now, we've had members of the Nassau County, the Suffolk County, the NYPD, the New York State Police, Park Police, Veterans Police. They all join in. And I know I'm leaving out some really important agencies out there that have jumped in, and that is not to slight them. I apologize. They're all there escorting the ride, making sure we have a very, very safe ride. And it's a great time to bring up to all you folks out there who aren't in the riding community, who are going out to get your bagels or whatever you're doing on the weekend, and you've been stuck on the entrance ramp watching this endless cavalcade of motorcycles go by, and you're getting a little frustrated. I wanted to thank you, ask you to be patient and understand what's going on here. Every time you see that's a charity for a good cause out there affecting Long Island. In this particular case, it's for police suicide. So we thank you for the patience as our brothers in blue block those entrances to the highway so we can safely proceed. In our case, we go out to Manorville to a facility called the Maples. Maples is a pretty well-known motorcycle stopping point. It's on a large tract of land. And at that point, we not only have some fellowship, but there are going to be folks out there for the awareness piece, giving out literature. There are folks, our sponsors are out there. And it's very important that the riding community and the involved community goes out and works with our sponsors, that they utilize our sponsors' services and products, because they're out there helping us. So we ask you to please do that, give them an extra look. And there's also folks that are out there selling merchandise. So there is a nice time that you can have out there doing some shopping, whether it's for motorcycle stuff or, having a nice cigar or maybe a unique item.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really a very meaningful experience. And I also think there's going to be some enjoyment there too, the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and maybe that'll spill over to supporting one another. But also, you mentioned a really important thing, which is sponsorship. Now, if you're a corporate sponsor, if you want to sponsor this event, I'm sure that not only the Sworn Guns and the NYPD will appreciate it, but it will have a rippling effect. So if somebody is like a corporate sponsor and they want to get involved, is that possible for them?
100%, Rich. I'm sure, and you've been so instrumental and helpful. I know that a lot of people have been able to reach out to your show, the Riding Counsel. If they do, I know that you will be definitely forwarding them right over to me. We ask for them. We're also on Facebook under Sworn Guns LEMC Originals, or Sworn Guns Originals, and we have an Instagram page as well, Sworn Guns LEMC_original. You can reach out to us through any of these venues. We'd love to have you on board as a sponsor. We have so many different programs that fit a level that you could be comfortable with, and we reciprocate. We're out there trying to help our sponsors drum up notoriety and business throughout our community. But I'd be remiss if I didn't key in on the main focus of our ride. When we get out to the Maples, not only is there fellowship, not only is there the support of the riding community, there's a great band that's led by the super talented Tucker Stevens, who year after year donates his time. Tucker is known throughout Long Island. He plays in so many bands, including those that feature the music of Lynyrd Skynyrd and Allman Brothers, super favorites of the riding community. But that's where we have our presentation. We have some well-known police clergy out there, and then we go into a period of awareness, and it culminates with the thing that I'm proudest about. Where does all the sponsorship go to, Rich? It goes to scholarships for the children of our lost brothers and sisters. And there's nothing more beautiful to see these kids as they're developing, getting these scholarships. And you know, there were some cute stories. Sometimes our community is a little rough and tumble. I like to say we're not always the most beautiful community out there, maybe looks wise, but what I saw out there was beautiful. We had one of our recipients at the time, a young boy by the name of David. David's dad was a police sergeant who we lost in the NYPD, Sergeant Jose Benitez. So David came, and not only do we raise sponsorship, but there's a huge raffle out there. During the raffle, one of the prizes donated by a large chain out there was a PS5. It just come out, and young David was awestruck by the PS5. During the raffle, everybody was putting their tickets in various things, and David's mom came by, Chari Manaya. Love Chari. She's a detective as well, who lost Jose way before his time. She was so supportive, and I remember her grabbing young David and saying, "Hey, David, you know, you want to gamble, there's a chance that you may win that, but there's a better chance you won't. So, but we're gonna support this cause. I'm gonna buy you a book of tickets." And David loaded them all into the PS5. Rich, there was one other child there at the whole event. One other child. It's really focused on children, but it was another family member of another award recipient. As fate would have it, that child won the PS5. So when I came back after the event, I recounted the story to the members of the Sworn Guns. Without hesitation, every member that was there reached deep into their pockets, pulled out finances, and I was able to call Chari the very next day and tell her it would be our honor, if it were all right with her, we wanted to check because we know she taught David that very valuable lesson. Would it be okay if we gave David a PS5? And she accepted that, and it was just great to have him come out and see get that PS5. So
he certainly knows now. He certainly knows now that he has the support of all the Sworn Guns and all the NYPD and a lot of law enforcement officers out there. I just, you know, the thing about suicide, you can't undo a suicide once it's done, and it has rippling effects. It's like throwing a stone in a lake when you see all the ripples. It goes throughout the families, and it really resonates with everybody. And you can't undo it, but at least a club like yours, the Sworn Guns, and efforts like this to bring suicide prevention and awareness to the public will help at least support people who are victims of suicide, meaning the families and the children, and hopefully try to bring them back to where they were before the suicide happened.
That's so true, Rich. And we've seen suicide amongst the law enforcement community just raise exponentially over the years. I don't find many bright sides coming out of the pandemic, but if there was one, we hit a crescendo of well over 200 suicides in the community back in 2019, but it kind of dropped off there during the pandemic. But unfortunately, as normalcy kind of regripped the country, we saw police suicide on the rise again. So we need all the help getting the word out we can get.
Yeah. So any corporate sponsors out there, please step up and give a hand, because it's something that really needs to be addressed here. And if it's okay with you, Rich, I'm going to put all the links down below to anybody watching YouTube. You can access my YouTube channel at Riding Counsel on YouTube, and of course on the internet at ridingcounsel.com. But I'm going to put all the links to how to get in touch with the Sworn Guns and links to how to get involved with this suicide prevention, because it's something that needs a lot of support. And I really think it could be reduced. It could be reduced, and something could be done. And these people, the families, the suicide victims, they really need to be recognized and helped.
Yeah, you bring up some great points. It begs the question, why don't more people get involved? And, in the law enforcement community, Rich, and I think that there's a certain stigma we got to get beyond when it comes to law enforcement. I've worked with folks from cops, from Beyond the Badge, really doing great work out there to get police suicide recognized for what it is. We have to release that stigma.
Yeah, we have to normalize mental health. We really do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. There's nothing, or even talk to a friend, talk to somebody, but please let's address it and normalize it.
You're really keying in on it, and in cops, there's that whole, a little bit of bravado, I keep to myself, I'm never going to rat out a brother. And you can't, you just can't, because I could tell you that you don't get a second chance with suicide very often. And there's no worse feeling than living knowing that maybe you could have helped if you did do something. There are so many ways to help, Rich. There's the police departments themselves have a lot of peer counseling groups that keep it quiet, keep it off the radar. You don't have to go to the health services division, although you can, and they also do a share of great work. There's the clergy that's involved in the police department. There's many outreach and line organizations. There's the ethnic backgrounded organizations. There's the PBAs and those affiliates. They're all there to help. So please, we have to get away from that stigma of, I'm not going to rat out my brother. I'm not going to say that. He may lose his guns. He may lose his guns, but it's a lot better than losing his life. Please understand that. And one thing I love to get out there in outreach, I actually hate getting it out there, but it's so necessary, is the specific sign that, I know that my friend was going through a hard time, and I really think he considered it. As a matter of fact, I know he considered it because he voiced it to me, suicide as an option, or words associated with suicide. I just can't go on. I need to get out of this. I can't handle this anymore. But then they seem better. All of a sudden, my old buddy is back there, John, Bill, Dave, whatever. Hey, I got him back. Matter of fact, he's more euphoric than ever, more lighthearted. The message, if I can get only one out there, is this is an extremely dangerous point, Richard. Often what has happened at that point is your friend has made up the decision that he's going to do it. He just hasn't decided when, okay? So that telltale should raise the antenna. He was depressed, he was sad, he was verbal. Now he's euphoric. Now it's his old self. Be on high alert. Go get that person the help that they so desperately need. If they found help on their own and you brought in additional help, lay your head on your pillow that you did a good thing, because it could have been drastic if you didn't.
I just want to thank you, for coming here on the show and sharing such personal details, not only about yourself, but the friend that you lost and many others, and really putting a lot of effort into this cause of suicide prevention and awareness. I really thank you. And again, I'm going to put all the links down below to anybody watching YouTube. But if you could just repeat for me one more time, maybe you could spell it out just for people who are just listening and don't have the benefit of YouTube. Just spell out maybe the one website that they can go to try to find some more information, and also for any kind of corporate sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, thanks. That's Sworn Guns MC. It's SWORNGUNSMC.com. On there, you'll see a way to donate. You'll see the upcoming ride flyer. There'll be some contact information. Like I said, I believe we have our Facebook and Instagram information up there, and I thank you for that. And please, I ask everybody to take a look at our sponsor page. It's ever growing and changing, including yourself, and we thank you for your support for this cause, Rich. Thanks for being an advocate for us.
Of course, it's really my pleasure. It's really an honor to work with you, and I know I'm going to be riding with you and hopefully aside your club as well. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, Rich, and I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Rich.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Riding Counsel with Richard Jaffe. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow riders. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and ride safe.